tactics were flying everywhere in this game, and this was back in 1948 with no engines, just book knowledge. And let's get through this game right quick. So we got David here as the white pieces against Samyon, and it started with the move d4. After d4, knight to f6, c4. Okay, we're doing pretty good. We got this original type of opening here. And what is this opening called? This is called the Nimzo Indian, especially after this move, bishop to b4. Quickly pinning this knight to the king on e1. After bishop to b4, e3, 5, and then we have this move a3, striking this bishop. Now, black is going to have to do something with that bishop on b4. What are they going to do? Bring the bishop back. Yes, they could have captured the knight too on c3, and then b takes on c3, doubling up the pawns, but most people decide not to do that, and yeah, bishop to e7 is even still played to this day. After bishop to e7, knight to f3, kingside castle, bishop d3, and then b6. And you already know black's strategy. Just by this move b6, because they could have did a quick c5 maybe. They could have captured the pawn on c4. They could have even played a3 in this position before b6. But they decided to do b6 right now, because they want to do bishop b7 very quickly, fianchettoing on the queen side and doing a quick c5. White already knows this because they've been playing chess for a while, and so he just castled kingside, and then the move c5 happens before bishop b7. Because you don't have to do bishop b7 before c5. You're gonna have to decide your style on your own too, because you know, certain chess players like certain things, and yes, they go over these openings every single day. So after the move c5, b3, solidifying the center, and there could be captures that happens here, but most grandmasters don't want to solidify the center. They want to keep the tension and then trade pieces once somebody is winning. And so that's why you see the move b3, probably bishop b2 is going to be happening next. Pretty much copycat chess. Grandmasters copy each other's moves too, but you just gotta do it in a grandmaster fashion. After bishop to b7, bishop b2, and then we have this move knight to c6, an inaccuracy, but not a terrible move. Knight, c takes on d5, first move. After c takes on d5, e takes on d5, and then we have this move knight to e2. After knight to e2, where is this knight going? Is it going to f4? Is it going to g3? Most likely g3, because most people want to put that knight to f5, or potentially in the future put that knight on h5. Not right now, to all the beginners that is listening to this, obviously not right now. But potentially maybe getting some attack off, a sacrifice on the g7 square. After knight to e4, inaccuracy. Computer likes moves like rook to e8, too boring. Let's just go in to attack the opponent with knight to e4. And this is how people was back in 1948. You would have to face people that's going to do knight to e4, f5, f4, etc. That's the main plan. Capture there. And now we already got the pawn structure. We already headed to the pawn structure that white wanted, or that black wanted, because both sides can play this. Black has the hanging pawns, and then white has the better pawn structure, obviously, because black has 3 pawn islands. So most people argue, oh, black is just losing here. And then black would argue, no, I have more space and I have an attack on your king. Let's see what happens in this position. After the move queen to c2, queen b6, knight g3. White's main plan is to trade a bunch of pieces and then actually argue with black and say, hey, your pawn structure is crap, and I'm gonna prove why. And so knight g3 happened. After knight g3, f5. And now, this is a decisive moment, because if you capture this knight in any fashion, you're gonna have to decide. I mean, black is going to be playing either d takes on e4 or f takes on e4. Takes on e4 looks more desirable to me, and then opening up that rook. But some people might want to do d takes on e4 and then push up that f4 pawn to get some attack on the f2. Both moves do the same thing, just a little bit different. And white is going to have to be ready for whatever black throws at them. And so yes, after the move f5, white did the move knight to h5, trying to plant that knight on the f4 square or prevent the opponent from pushing that pawn at all, and questioning the opponent, saying, hey, first of all, what are you going to do with this g7 pawn, because that bishop is very active along this diagonal? And then secondly, are you going to go all in with the move g5? After the move knight to h5 here, rook f7, super passive. And I think if g5 would have been played here, this, I mean, the computer doesn't like the move g5, but it is very tempting in this position. And then, I mean, white's best move, they don't have no immediate tactics here. They would have to do rook a to d1. Still very scary. Mistakes can happen. And black's best move right now is doing knight to a5, so you would definitely have to know exactly what you're doing in this type of position, which that's why black didn't go into it, and they did the more solid move rook to f7. After rook to f7, rook b1, of course an inaccuracy, but not a bad move, because you want to put your rook along the file that the queen is on, just in case, you know, black wants to push up one of these pawns. You're trying to deter them from doing their plan. After rook to b1, put the rook right there, get all of our pieces in motion where they want to be at, and then we got this move rook to d6, knight to f4, and then we have king h8, bishop f1. They're maneuvering pieces right now, and then we have this thematic move knight takes on d5, just out of nowhere. Knight takes on d5 is a crazy move. It's kind of like sacrificing the rook meme, but you're sacrificing your pony, you're sacrificing your horsey. What happens after capturing back though? Like, what's the tactic? Because in the game, black just did bishop to h4. What happens after rook takes knight on d5? Well, after rook takes knight, rook takes on d5, queen takes on d5, and then we have this move bishop c4. Bishop c4, pretty much skewering the queen to the rook, and after the queen has to move, you get that rook on f7. And yeah, this is just winning because even after getting that rook, and let's just say that, you know, white is up in exchange. We got that rook coming into d1. We got that bishop still open. We got this bishop that's just going to go back to c4 potentially. We got this knight that's going to hop into one of these squares. And yeah, this is game over for the black pieces. And that's why they did not, they did not want to deal with that knight at all. And then they did a very simple move, bishop to h4, questioning white's position, saying, hey, I'm attacking this f2 pawn. What are you going to do about it? Which white was like, okay, I'm going to capture that bishop first. Queen captures, and then we're going to put that knight back to f4. Inaccuracy, of course, but is very solid. Not everybody can see all the tactics that the computer sees. After knight to f4, double rooks, knight h3, because I guess white was really worried about this f2 pawn at the point, and they wanted a second person to be guarding that f2 pawn. And then we got this move knight to d2. After queen takes on f5, what is going on here? Which side would you rather take? Of course, all of us would say the white side, but if there is no computer, there are tactics everywhere. And this knight can just, I mean, this knight can't go to e7 now because of checkmate, but, you know, there's a lot of tactics for both sides, especially after the move. Well, wait a minute. Oh, they can go knight to e7 because queen, after queen f8, knight g8. I was mistaken. Knight e7 is a wonderful move because this bishop is out, and there are tactics for both sides. It can be a decisive game right now. White did the move queen f7, not the best move because they have the move queen g4. Queen g4 is wonderful, and then +2, it is threatening knight to f3, capturing the rook obviously on d1. After queen f7, they didn't play that, they played queen h6. f4. So white is doing not the best moves, but they are doing very scary moves. And black is fearful at this moment, especially after the move f4. Now their best move was doing the move bishop to e5, but I mean, doing bishop e5. And usually when there's tactics like this, players like to have all their pieces defended at the same time. And yeah, nobody's going to be doing this move bishop to e5 except for Magnus Carlsen, maybe the top 10 in the world. But yeah, I digress. Let's continue on. f4, knight g8, queen f8. You're going to see that bar going back and forth. Rook takes, and then we have this move, and knight to g5. Knight to g5 threatening knight to f7, which is not only a fork, a family fork, but it is checkmate. Black is going to have to guard against that, in which they found the only best move to guard against this square, right? Because you don't want to do rook, well, you don't want to do any of these rook moves to defend because you're going to have to sacrifice your rook for a knight. After the move e4, which is a valid point, what are you going to do with your bishop? Because I want your bishop to move from this diagonal. Bishop takes on b3, e5. So white's main idea is to push this pawn all the way to the end and get a second queen. Even though in this position, they kind of played wrong. Like the computer definitely wants them to do bishop takes on g7, queen takes on g7, queen takes on d6, and maybe equalize the position. But no, white is a fighter, and they wanted to do this move e5 and figure out what black is going to be doing next. The natural move is rook to d1 to pin the bishop to the king. But after e6, white is a little bit better, and then black panicked and took the pawn on e6. Better move, not saying winning, is rook takes on f1. Since you put the rook on d1, you might as well do rook takes on f1. This has already been a crazy game, so let's do rook takes on f1, king takes on f1, knight to d2, and let's continue on. But no, bishop takes, knight takes, and this is a clear threat. There's too many pieces attacking the g7 square. So after rook d4, which is blocking that bishop, bishop takes, pawn takes, and then we have this move knight to g5 again. But this time, there's no bishop to go to d5, there's no rook to defend, and you have to defend this with the queen. Only good move, queen f6, knight to f7, queen sacrifices itself, and then white is winning in this position. After the move knight to g5 hit the board, black resigned. Yeah, that was an ugly game. Thanks for watching.